according to Verizon, it's 3 p.m. Betty, could you read the declaration about electronic meeting?
Yes. On March 31st, 2020, the Middlesex Board of Supervisors ratified a declaration of emergency issued by the county's Director of Emergency Management and adopted an ordinance to ensure continuity of the county government. A copy of this ordinance can be found on the county's website under Board of Supervisors, Ordinances number 81. These procedures include the ability for the Board of Supervisors and other county public entities to conduct electronic meetings. Information on how to access these meetings by video and telephone is posted on the county website. This ordinance was extended on May 5th, 2020, and again on November 4th, 2020. The provisions of the ordinance and electronic meetings is in effect for a period of 6 months unless amended, rescinded, or readopted by the Board of Supervisors. An audio recording is being made of the meeting, which will be linked from the county's website. Notice of the meetings, along with access information, has been posted on the county's website and at the front of the historic courthouse. An electronic meeting link was also sent to those persons that have asked to be part of the board's agenda list. As each person joins the meeting, the public audio will be muted to avoid background noise, and the board and staff audio will be open. If a meeting calls for public comment, the chairman will announce that the meeting is open for comments and public lines will be unmuted. Those with an audio connection should use *9, which will notify the moderator that you wish to comment. To unmute your own phone, you should use *6. Those with video capability are to use the raise hand feature to be recognized by the chair. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak, and each speaker must identify themselves when speaking. All votes will be by roll call and recorded in the minutes. Board members who leave the meeting or arrive must verbally note their attendance. If all board members are not joined by video, a roll call will be made every 2 hours to confirm a quorum.
All right. Any board member have any question about the process? Okay, the purpose of this meeting is for board meeting for a regular agenda items. At this time, roll call.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Here.
Mr. Williams,
Here.
Mr. Coons,
Here. Here.
Mr. Mansfield,
Too early.
Mr. Mansfield,
Hello. Yes.
and Mr. Jesse.
Here, we have a quorum. All right, at this time, Reginald Williams, could you lead us in prayer? And then at that, Matt Walker, President to the flag.
Let us pray. Oh, Father, once again, you have led us to this place. And Father, we ask you now that come in us and help us and influence us and teach us how to grow and grow together, Father, and handling the county business in the proper way. Now, Father, strengthen us as we go on in this meeting. In Jesus' name, we all do pray. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Would all citizens of the United States of America join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
All right, first on the agenda, I'd like to approve this consent agenda. Does anybody have any questions or corrections of the consent agenda, which includes the minutes of April 6th, a budget work session, April 6th, a regular meeting, April 9th, budget work session, and April the 22nd. And then disbursements and payroll. If not, nobody, any questions or anything like that or correction, do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
We have a motion by Ludd. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ludd, probably second by Reggie. Roll call.
Mr. Coons,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse.
Aye. Motion so carried. Next, we have public comment. I will open the hand for comments from the public. For those with an audio connection, you can use *9, which will notify the moderator that you wish to comment. Use *6 to unmute your phone. Those with video capabilities should use the raise hand feature to be recognized by the chair. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak, and each speaker must identify themselves when speaking. The public hearing is now open for comments. Kevin, do we have anyone that want to speak?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. They'll need to unmute their connection, but Sonia Pender.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chairman, ladies and gentlemen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you fine.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for your time. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Sonia Pender. I am a resident of Urbana, and my issue this afternoon is noise disturbance at Bethpage Campground, particularly on weekends. A little bit of background. My husband and I are both military veterans and have been fortunate enough to call Urbana our home for nearly 20 years. We have enjoyed every aspect of living here in Middlesex County and are blessed to have had the opportunity to raise our family and retire here. Last year, we noticed a significant change at Bethpage, where loud music with foul and vulgar language would be blasted at very loud levels to the point where we were no longer able to enjoy sitting outside. We called Bethpage several times, and while the music was turned down once, it persisted again the following weekend. And although we live across the creek, we can hear it nearly a mile away as the crow flies. And it is an unreasonable disturbance that we should not have to listen to weekend after weekend during the summer. We understand the pandemic has drawn many folks here to our wonderful community, and we fully appreciate everyone's desire to get outside. This year, the music has started early. The music is at a level that is simply unreasonable for a residential neighborhood to have to listen to, and the vibration, again, can be felt across the creek from the campground. We have lived here for many years and listened to the campground music over time and have never had an issue with the noise level. But these last 2 years have simply become unbearable, and the style of music is inappropriate and, in my humble opinion, not in keeping with what I believe to be the spirit of this beautiful and peaceful community. The noise ordinance clearly states that the music level should be considered annoying. Should the noise levels be considered annoying or disturbing to a reasonable person, that they should be turned down. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate the time this afternoon. I am a tax-paying citizen and respectfully request to air my grievance to the Board of Supervisors so that you can evaluate the existing ordinance and assess whether Bethpage permit should be amended to ensure that they comply with the noise ordinance. Thank you so very much for your time and the opportunity to express my concerns.
Thank you, Mrs. Pender.
Thank you, Chairman.
Kevin, got anybody else?
I do not see anyone at this time. I'm not sure if Betty has any.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to close the public comment. Next would be constitutional officer. We have the treasurer, Kathy Thrift, and Commissioner of Revenue, May Diggs. I'll have to change it, not Burkmore, May Diggs. And congratulations.
Would you like for me to pull up that report that Ms. Diggs sent, or?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. Uh-huh. Is Mayor present? Is she present?
Yes, sir. I'm here. Thank you.
Okay. If you would like to go, just, we're looking at it now. It look like things are going pretty good right this year, from last year to this year because of the pandemic, but you understand what's been going on.
Who are we speaking with right now?
May Diggs,
And-
May Burke Diggs,
Okay.
Commissioner of Revenue.
Good. I have, Mr. Chairman, a question. for
Yes.
May.
Uh-huh.
May,
Yes, sir.
Pete Mansfield here. One of the reasons I was 2 minutes late getting here, I would like to apologize to everybody, is because my wife, just before I left, handed me let's see, this is not a bill, but it's a statement. And in it we only got it a couple of days ago, and it says subject to a penalty if not filed on or before May 1st.
Yes, sir. That's the return of tangible personal property. The vendor that we used, BMS Direct, let us know April 14th that those were to be put in the mail that date. But with the delays and everything going on with the mail, I have decided in my office that all forms that are returned by June 1st will be considered on time.
Okay, well, but it's pretty scary to people, you know, to receive something that says, if you don't have it back by May 1st. And I've also,
Yes, sir. No, I understand completely, and I'm going to be putting an ad in Sentinel as well.
oh, I thank you, May. Thank you very much.
Does anyone else have any question for Commission Revenue? If not, thank you, May. And Kathy, is Kathy there? Does anybody have any question for Kathy? I see Kathy has her hand up.
I didn't mean to do that.
Somebody had their hand up. Anybody have any question for the treasurer, Kathy Thrick? If not, have a nice day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, thank you. Next, we have agency and staff report. VDOT is report only, pages 60 to 62. Any board members gonna have anything? I know she's not here, but does anybody have any questions that they want to have staff to give to Joyce? If not, we're gonna move on. Next, we have school matters. Dr. Peter Gretz.
I think Mr. Gretz or Dr. Gretz had a commitment this afternoon, but he asked me to cover a couple items for him, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
All right, that is on page 63 to 64.
Yes, indeed. Simple request, and we usually handle this request about this time every year. The state has allocated some additional federal money from 2 past federal grants, Title III, which supports English learners. This used to be known as limited English proficiency students, and Perkins, which supports career and technical education. So as the fiscal years end, if divisions have not spent all of these funds, the state will pull them back and redistribute the money across other divisions that have spent funds and have a need. So in this case, the schools are receiving $9.93 in redistributed Title III money and $391 in redistributed Perkins funds.
Okay,
Wanted me to cover that for the board.
Right, at this time, does anybody have a motion for FY 2021 budget supplement request? Do we have a motion to approve?
So
We have a motion by Pete. Do we have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Pete, probably second by Ludd. Roll call.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye. Motion so carried. Next, line item C, we have social service report only, page 65 to 66. Line item D, airport. We have a comprehensive agreement for design and construction. Jeff Gore.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Mr. Walker and members of the public and everybody else. This is Brendan Hefty. I'm work with Jeff Gore and filling in for him. He had a conflict for today. I just wanted to provide an update to the board that we've included in the packet a copy of the draft comprehensive agreement for the construction of the airport realignment and runway extension project. Really not asking for any action at this point, just wanted you to be aware that we had circulated that draft and give you an opportunity to review and make any comments or ask any questions. We've gotten some comments back from Delcorp and are working with staff and plan over the next couple of days and weeks to incorporate any additional comments, which will circulate to you and to the committee. Hopefully be back in June with a recommendation for action, but for right now, not asking for anything.
Okay.
That's the update. If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer, but it's just preliminary at this point.
Does any board members have any questions about the comprehensive agreement? Matt?
Yep, Brendan, this is Matt Walker. Just a quick question. If we do receive public comment over the next 30 days, should we forward that public comment to your office or just copy your office as we forward it to the review committee?
You can copy us on it. Either way, we'd like to know about it. So
Of course.
I think
Okay.
you should know, but copy us on it. That would be good. Thank you.
Okay. Any board members have any questions on it? I went over it the other night, so, I'm not any expert, but Heather, you good with everything that you read over?
Yes, sir. I have my comments and I've submitted those as well under memo to the board for your.
Right, okay.
review.
Right, okay. All right, we're good. All right, if no more questions, well, thank you, Brent.
Thank you.
Next, we have the Top and Sewer Project update, Timmons Group. We have Bob Rope and Ken Turner.
Well, this is Bob Roop, and thank you, sir. I really hadn't planned on giving an update as much as answering some questions that were going forward. We're basically finished with the PER for the topping, and we're working on the Deltaville PER for sewer service to the Deltaville area. Some questions came up in the meeting with Ludd and Mr. Mansfield about potentially evaluating some other alternatives, and we have completed that, and I will be glad to answer any questions. Ludd, do you have any questions that we need to address?
Just to brief everyone, the project that Pete and I asked you to look at was the idea of redeploying the Saluda treatment facility as a Deltaville treatment facility. And subsequent to that, the concept of having a pre-treatment performed in Deltaville and then discharging the waste into the HRSD system had been brought up. And Bob, I'm not fully up to speed on whether that was assessed by you as a part of this, or I know it came up late in the process. And so I really am not up to speed on exactly where you are in looking at that option.
Okay, let me explain. I sent a proposal to County Administrator Matt Walker and advised him of, and I thought it was addressed at last month's board meeting. But in any event, we advised him we'd be glad to look at it. It would cost an additional $5,000 and go through the options that were requested. So we have not started the work, and I have not been released by the county administrator to do that work at this point. I thought that was an issue that would be discussed today and any clarity required given.
Yes, Bob, if I may, I was trying to struggle with my mic over here. I was going to give you a little bit of a way of an introduction. I think at this point, the board did authorize and vote for the additional study last month, but I think given some email correspondence over the course of the last month, it's my understanding Mr. Mansfield wants to reach out to HRSD, have a chat with them before we do much more with it. So I would continue to keep it on pause for now until further direction from the board, at least at this time. How about that, Bob?
That's fine with me. It's up to you all at this particular point. But I agree that in our discussions, I have always been an advocate of you discussing it directly with HRST. That way there's no speculation on what the potential is for reducing costs. And then, of course, the other option would be to discharge directly to either the Pianki Tank or the Rappahannock Rivers, which kind of goes against what HRSD is trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and in the way of introducing what we what I invited Ken and Bob here today for, Mr. Chairman. A couple months ago, of course, y'all remember that Timmons reviewed the PER for the topping sewer system. We never really authorized them to move forward with design. We kind of wanted to wait until we got through the budget process, but we're at that stage where if it's the board's will to continue that project, we need to authorize design of that project and maybe actually put it out to bid. And I will speak to that very briefly, and then I'll ask Bob and Ken to chime in. Yeah, if we do go to design, I think we're going to want to keep HRSD, Hampton Road Sanitation District, at the table and very closely meshed and coordinated on this project, because it's entirely possible that HRSD could change policy and actually want to maintain this project on behalf of the county, which of course would be my standing recommendation, if at all possible, keep us out of the sewer maintenance and operation game. But that's going to be determined at a later date. It's my opinion, after several conversations with the HRSD executive team I'm working with, that having a design that is coordinated to a great degree with HRSD may actually help facilitate some of their decision-making on revision of their existing policies that would allow them to operate and maintain the type of system that we're trying to deploy, for obvious reasons, and the cost effectiveness from our standpoint on the capital investment, upfront capital investment. Ken, Bob, so anything that you would want to tell the board before they kind of authorize moving forward or getting more information on the topping system?
And I did want to include the draft application to DEQ for funding through the Virginia Clean Water Revolving Loan Fund that I sent you, and you replied to me on that. Application is due July 1st, so that would be the funding mechanism for funding construction. And just wanted to make everyone aware of that as well.
This is the same fund that we received from DEQ to finance the Cook's Corner sewer system. Interest rates are still very promising, and we'll have more to report on that next month or July. But in short, I think what we're looking for in way of action from the board is authorization to move Timmons forward to design the system and topping, and maybe put it out to bid and see what we're dealing with.
Okay, so
Mr. Chairman, I would like to say something at the same time. Okay. Bob and Kenneth, Pete Mansfield here.
Pete, can you use your mic, please? We can't hear you. It's hard to hear you.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
The only, it appears that HRSD is not very receptive to the bulk delivery idea, which is really disappointing to me. And I intend to take that up with Ted Hennepin at some point. And I also believe that I'll lose that argument, but I really would like them to know that I really think that would be a service to the county. In the meantime, I would like one more thing out of the $5,000, if I possibly can, is a quick 1-hour review of our original idea. I still love the idea of going into a wooded area, but I don't think that I've gotten good feelings about that. But the alternative to that, I do not think is going into our waterways. I've fought most of my life of stopping sewage going into the waterways. But I do believe that there is a possibility that drip irrigation might possibly be a better alternative for us than to pay HRSD the kind of money that we're talking about paying them, and then they get to collect all the money from the sewage, leaving Middlesex with nothing. Do you have any more time in your five grand to take a quick look at drip irrigation?
Yes, we've spent nothing at this particular point because we haven't been authorized to do anything. other than put together a proposal. So we can definitely look at that. That's part of what we anticipated doing with that amount of money. So we can certainly look at that and give you the pros and cons and know that that definitely will put the county in the sewer business.
If I may, just to clarify, it's my understanding that that Ken felt that HRSD would accept bulk discharge if it were pre-treated. Is that accurate, Ken?
Yes, that's my understanding. They do have a P3 program, but the pre-treatment typically applies to higher strength waste to get it down to the limits commensurate with residential pollutant levels for suspended solids and BOD and other contaminants. So pre-treating domestic sewage, I'm not sure if there would be a discount to the HRSD rate, which is why Matt recommended there be a discussion with HRSD to confirm that. And with respect to the HRSD charges, the bill that is paid on a monthly basis by the customers, collection and conveyance to HRSD wastewater treatment plants is retained by HRSD, and conveyance and treatment is the HRSD part, and collection and conveyance of the system in the county has a separate charge, which typically is returned to the locality, which I believe Matt has explained before, and I have included that in the PER to break down how the revenue generation would be realized by Middlesex County in conjunction with the topping preliminary engineering report.
Gotcha. Thank you.
All right, so at this time, do we have a motion for the Timmons Group to bid out the Topping Sewer project? To bid out the design for the Topping Sewer project.
I move that we
I
ask.
think you wanted to proceed with the design.
Right.
With the design.
It's not going for bid yet. The design needs to be done,
Right.
having finished the preliminary engineering report. So I move that we authorize Timmons to proceed with the design of the Timmons sewer collection project.
Okay.
If that's the correct terminology.
We have a motion by Lud, probably a second by John. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield,
Aye.
Mr. Coons,
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse.
Aye. Motion so carried. All right. If we don't have, and nobody have any more questions for Bob or Kenneth at this time?
Well, I do want to go back just for a second.
Okay.
Bob,
Yes, sir.
would you have any time at all to get a quick idea on drip, if we did the collection and if we did the disposal through drip irrigation, what would be our cost compared with sending it with the HRSD solution?
Correct. Yes, that is exactly what I sent Mr. Walker, a proposal to give you an evaluation on a very broad brush conceptual cost for the treatment and disposal combined with the collection system. And then we would do a very brief rate evaluation to give you an indication of what your liabilities were and what rates you'd have to use in order to sustain that system.
Was that a yes?
I'm sorry, you didn't understand. I said that what we had proposed was to do just that, was to evaluate and come up with a conceptual cost, like a cost based on a concept for spray irrigation, and then integrate that into the rate study that we did to show you what the total rates would be. If you took out HRSD, added in the treatment cost, and you maintained the collection system.
So that's two different concepts, correct?
No, it's one concept. Spray irrigation and collection system costs would be integrated together into the rate study. And the evaluation will focus on the spray irrigation design concept, how much it would cost for you to construct and operate and maintain. We will integrate those costs into the rate study to show you what your total rates would be going that route as compared to going with HRSD. I think that's what you're looking for.
Yes. And would we owe you any more money?
No, we're okay with the money we got.
Thank you.
That
Now,
is, that is if Matt authorizes the change order I gave him.
Yeah, and I just want some clarification from the board. Do you want to wait until you talk to HRC, or do we want to authorize them to go ahead and get started on? Because y'all have already approved the 5,000. They're just kind of waiting for, I think, a conversation you wanted to have with Ted.
Matt, you trailed off there. Can you restate what the question is?
Do we want to authorize them to proceed with the $5,000 study? Or are we still waiting for a conversation with HRSD?
Pete? Or you want to hold this up until you talk to Ted, or do you want them to proceed?
This is a hell of a thing, but I don't know the answer right now to a very simple question.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
It's your game. If you need more time.
Well, I would like Timmons to give me an idea of if drip irrigation is totally out of the picture, then, you know,
Yeah.
I don't want to tilt at any more windmills. But
May I interject something? The question you're asking is not relevant to the questions that we were going to ask HRSD to begin with. The questions we were going to discuss with HRSD were related to pre-treatment and whether you could get a reduced bulk rate if you pre-treated it. This is entirely different. This would be a spray irrigation standalone system, not involve HRSD whatsoever.
true. And how does that compare in cost and future revenues to just sending it to HRSD?
Correct. That's the answer we will give you when we do the study.
I vote yes to the $5,000 in that case.
Well, again, you've already voted to approve that last
I know.
month, but if you want to tell them to proceed, we can tell them to proceed. And I would want to interject one thing. While we're looking at drip irrigation, let's also look at subsurface.
Sure.
I mean, not just spray irrigation, but subsurface and drain fields, because I think that's a lot more practical in our circumstance. That's what we were looking at before. Subsurface type of thing. So is that something y'all can do for the 5,000, Bob?
Yeah, we'll take a general look at that because that kind of offsets the treatment option that we were going to, where we discharge to the river. The one thing you should know is that subsurface condition, it's going to take, I hope you got a lot of land. We're talking about up to 160,000 gallons per day. And so when you divide that by 200 to 300, that's how many homes you're going to be able to serve, plus boat docks and boat discharges and things of that nature.
Yeah, roger that. And I do want to interject one other thing. I want to make sure the board is very clear on this. If we do a study and, okay, well, we now decide we want to operate our own treatment plant, you're 2 feet into the sewer game, we'll need a public works department to run that or contract out for it. Just want to be clear on that. So.
All right. Well, all right, then, thank you, Bob and Kenny. Y'all have a nice day. All right.
Thank you. You're welcome. Have a good day yourself, sir.
Bye. Next, we have Economic Development Authority, the MOUs. We have Gordon White, Chairman, and also we have Michelle Brown. How you doing, Gordon? Right. Now you gotta get your mic hot, I think, because I don't see it red. You got it, so everybody can hear you. I think you gotta.
Oh, okay. All right. I can hear it now.
Can everybody hear Gordon?
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
No answer. Chairman Jesse, members of the board. For the record, I am Gordon White, Chairman of the Middlesex County Economic Development Authority. I'm here to ask you to approve a memorandum of understanding between the board and the EDA regarding income from the increased transient occupancy tax, which was instituted on the 1st of July, 2020. The authority and county staff have worked out details of the transfer of the increased tax, assumption by the EDA of all the employment expenses of our administrator, Michelle Brown, and her assistant, and handling of details of payroll and purchasing expenses for the EDA. The transfer would take place beginning July 1st, 2021. As you have the MOU in your packet, I will not read the entire document. I believe Chairman Jesse has seen the MOU and is in agreement with it. Is that correct, Chairman? In effect, the EDA will apply the increased income from the tax to promote tourism in the interest of the lodging industry in Middlesex County in accordance with the General Assembly's intent when it authorized the county to collect the increased tax. Because the EDA does not have the computer programs needed to deal with the complexities of payroll calculations, county staff has agreed to continue to handle that for Michelle and her assistant with the funds to come from the EDA. We believe this will impose minimum demand on the time of county staff. We hope the board will approve the MOU. The EDA is fully aware of its responsibility to use the funds to try to increase tourism in Middlesex, thereby creating an increase in county income from meals and sales taxes, as well as from lodging. We plan to keep in close touch with the lodging industry and communicate with them on ways to help their businesses grow. Are any questions from the board?
Any board members have any questions for Gordon?
I got a question, Gordon. On the increase on meals tax, sales tax, and lodging tax, is the increase we talking about based on a percentage of what? Like we get meal tax now, so what are we saying?
No, I'm not talking about an increase in the rate, but we hope to increase tourism and thereby have more meals and thereby have more tax income.
So you're saying take the money from meals, sales tax, and lodging tax now and give it to the EDA?
Well, the meals tax would not come to the EDA. It's just the increase in the lodging tax. But we hope to increase business in general in the county by promoting tourism, which would increase tax income.
And the lodging taxes, that's the one that I think we passed last year. 2% goes to the county and 3% goes to the EDA. Is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir. I believe it's 3%. 2 to the county, 3 would go to the EDA.
Basically, that's what we are talking about.
The tourism, yes.
Does any other board members have any questions for Gordon? No?
I would like to.
Go ahead, push it.
Yes.
We may have 3 mics on.
You got 2 minutes.
We cannot
Okay.
hear.
Yeah.
Yes, I will make a motion that we share the revenue if needed.
Right. We have a motion by Pete for the MOU for the EDA, memorandum of understanding. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion.
A second.
By Pete, probably second by Ludd. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Coons?
He's coming back in.
Okay.
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.
Mr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse.
Aye. Motion so carried.
Now, Mr. Chairman, I must say, I've just been handed a few minutes ago a letter from Department of Housing and Community Development with regard to the Cook's Corner grants. I can comment on that if you would.
I'm probably, Mr. Chairman, I'm probably going to comment on that in my report as well. We received a email yesterday and kind of hot off the press. I'll comment on that during my report as well.
I got a question. You said you wanted to comment, right? And Matt's gonna comment. And evidently it's not gonna go through. What will make it go through?
Well, I have some comments on that. The EDA has been trying since last November to find a new developer. It appears the brew pub was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Despite our best efforts, and Michelle and I and members of the authority have done our level best to find someone to continue the project and use the grants, we have not found anyone willing to take over the project. I've asked our member Jim Reed, I believe you know, to act as our liaison to the African American community, but he has not been able to find any group with the resources to use the site. Department of Housing and Community Development has been very kind, leaving their grants on the table as long as they have, but they have told us by this letter received today that they had given the county and the EDA until June 1st, 2021 as the date they will withdraw the offer of the grants if we don't find a developer. And as I say, we have not. And to explain some of the difficulty there, the VCI and other grants come with requirements that no one has been willing to take on, including hiring specifications, application of Davis-Bacon Act, and many others. Department of Historical Resources is required as a condition of using federal money that the RCE building be restored and this flat roof be incorporated into whatever is built on the site. That alone would be add between $800,000 and $1 million the cost of any project in order for it to meet present building codes. The offered grants, of course, would only cover a fraction of the expenses of building a project on the site. Our considered opinion is that the only way to make use of the RCE site at Cook's Corner and get it on the tax rolls would be to sell it to an entrepreneur with a proviso that it be put to productive tax-paying use. We are in contact with real estate agents whose business is to do just that. The ADA does not have the contacts that agents have, and we believe the sooner we get the property on the active market, the better. Any questions?
Any other board members?
Other questions?
All right, we don't have any more questions then? Okay. Go ahead.
Thank you,
for
Mr.
the
Chairman.
information.
Yeah, and I think Mr. Chairman Gordon is correct. According to the timestamp on this, we received this at 3:03 today.
Can I ask Mr. White before he sits down to turn that microphone back off if he hadn't already done so? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Kevin. All right. Next, we have line item G, Museums of Middlesex Saluda Historical District, Merlin South. If she can unmute her. Oh, there we go. Hi, Marilyn, can you hear me?
Sure, I could hear you, and I can go into video, whatever y'all need, but thanks for the opportunity, and I'm just here for Museums of Middlesex. We've been busy working on this historic district signage. We have sent in $500 to VDOT for the application fee for doing 2 directional signs, the brown ones that will say Saluda Historic District with an arrow turning one direction when you're traveling south on 17, another direction turning north. But initially, we'll only be able to erect one directional sign. That's going to cost us $1,700. We also have, and I don't know, Kevin, if you can put up those slides I sent the pictures along the way.
Is it in the agenda?
Yeah, it's in the
I
packet.
can get it, Kevin.
Okay, thank you.
I think. If I can. Let me scroll. Hang on just a minute.
It's page 93. There we go. Starts at 93. Just back a minute. Let me see. Oh, okay. Okay. So that first one that shows the sign. All right. So we have initiated the $1,700 for directional signage on 17. What we also want to do is have Wes Summerfield, who has done the signage for the Deltaville community, dark blue with white letters, a little hint of red on it, is Welcome to Saluda 1849 Historic District. Now, if you'll slowly go down the slide, location is our issue. Museums of Middlesex is going to spend the $1,300 to have the sign painted and made. But the next thing is locating it. This is that left-hand corner that y'all are well aware of, but there's already, I think, my perspective, but I need y'all's input, fairly busy at that spot. So Betty, the next slide. And this one shows directly in front of the courthouse. And once we start moving towards the center of the courthouse, during the week, parked cars would block anything that would be put on the wall. It would have to be a standing sign. The next slide, Betty. This one gives you a long shot of that wall. There isn't anything in the middle. We wouldn't want to block anything if we were to be granted permission to do any kind of signage at the historic courthouse site. But we could put it on some type of stand. And then the next slide, Betty. This is looking at the whole courthouse complex in that corner. And there are a lot of signs on that corner. You don't think about it until you start photographing it. And you have to start envisioning the cars parked there all week long and what shows up. And the height of those historic marker signs pretty much defines the height that you would need for a sign. So if you'll go to the next one. This is where the entrance, it's not a very good photograph, but it's the entrance into Saluda. We've been talking to VDOT about this location, and they're really do not want to put another sign there. And I understand it, I get it. So a potential option is to raise the county sign and put the historic district sign under it. That's a potential. Overall looks, I don't know, an artist would have to tell us. But that it could be a potential. And then we'd have to check sign ordinance height on that one. And then the next one, Betty. This is where we currently have the clerk's office and the sign there. And that is pretty visible. And we're going to be changing that sign to visitor information. We've already started taking the visitor rack over there from the annex at the museum, which is still a visitor center. This is visitor information because we will have exhibits at the visitor annex over there at the museum property. But we could put the sign on the historic clerk's office building. We have worked it out. It will be open Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. And we will have community information brochures in there, anything people want. And so we could put the sign there and then underneath it or in combination with that sign, put visitor information. So that's an option. And then I think there's one more sign or
no,
there isn't. Okay. The other potential slide that I was going to show you was the left-hand corner the vacant lot, H&H Development owned, that is a very busy corner and it is used by the community, and they would charge us $250 a year to keep a sign there with no promise that it would not be taken down someday. So Mom would like feedback from you all as to the siting of a sign.
All right. Well, any board members have any ideas of what you're thinking about where the best place to put the sign?
Chair, I have a thought, if it's okay.
Yes, John.
Yeah, I think the Middlesex County sign that has the 350-year anniversary underneath it, I think if we remove the 350 years and put it there, I think that's the best location. And while we're on the topic and have this on our screen, I'm curious, Matt, maybe you can answer later or offline. When are we getting rid of those terrible flaps that are on the?
They're already down.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah, John, if we
Probably, yeah, we're probably going to install those flaps inside the office because apparently there's a running argument about what the temperature needs to be set on. So we're going to section off my portion of the building for a cooler type of environment.
John, are you opposed that if the artist feels like the Middlesex County sign, welcome sign, would need to be elevated, be higher? Would that be a problem for you?
Not for me, but I've been looking at those 350s for 3 years, and I've been wondering when we were going to take them down. So that was my primary thought. But yeah, I mean, if it needs to go up higher, I think that's the best location of the ones you've presented.
Okay. Are there any other thoughts to help us out here?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, Marilyn, to give us your idea of where you would like the sign.
Well, I think John is right. If we can do that sign at the triangle, makes a lot of sense. We need to talk to the artist and get their feedback as to the artistic quality and how it can work. I don't know, he may say it's too busy. I don't know. We'd look into that. My second choice is the clerk's office because it's set back enough from the courthouse wall that even when cars are blocked, you can still read the sign. And it's within the historic complex of the courthouse, so we know it's not going anywhere. It's on historic property. And the VDOT property would also be protected long-term. So either one of those sites, I'm perfectly willing, and no mom is, to work with.
I think I tend to go for back at the triangle, but you said the highway department was not real receptive to that.
They would if we combine it on two posts. What they don't want is a whole nother sign up because they don't want to cut around something else. They're trying to minimize signage, and we get it.
It's
Can we
county
put it
employees
on?
that cut that.
Could we put it on the same post that our 350-year sign is on?
Yes, we can. It just depends on the readability with the height, proportionate to traveling and the speed. Those are things that the artist would have to help us with. We were thinking out a 3x5 sign, and then on the clerk's office, what we would have is a sign saying visitor information. So we can definitely look into that and get some thoughts back from West Summerfield and come back to you if you'd like. It is your sign. We could have ask him to do a rendering of what it would look like and give us the measurements and the coloring.
I think that'd be a good idea to do that.
Okay.
Any other board members have to say anything? Yeah, Merlin, I think that'd be a good idea to see a rendering of how it's going to actually look on it.
All right, I'll come
Mom.
back next month then, and hopefully Wes, we can work it out for Mom, and I'll bring it to you. And I appreciate it.
All right. Okay, well, thank you, bro.
Okay, thanks.
Bye-bye.
Can I say one other thing?
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you, Marilyn, for all the work that you've been putting in to this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate it. All of Mom appreciates it. Thanks, guys.
All right. Okay, thank you. Next, we have regular agenda item. Government Continuity Ordinance. We have Heather Lewis.
Yes, sir.
Hi,
Well,
Heather.
hello, everyone, and good afternoon.
Afternoon.
As you know from reviewing in your packet, your continuity ordinance was readopted on November 4th. So I'm just letting the board know that it's up for your consideration. It's the pleasure of the board and what you'd like to do with it, but it will expire today at midnight if there is no action taken. So I just wanted to make sure you were aware of that. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And
So if we go back, well, we had polled to go back normally. So if we do nothing, it just dies, right?
yes, sir.
Okay. I just want to hear from other board members. I think, I think it's time to open up. I'm personally thinking about it. And we did say, courthouse had opened up, the administrative office is opening. And I just want to hear from the boards, but I think, if we're going to decide to open up in June, then I guess we have to do nothing then and let it die out.
Mr.
I wanna hear from the
Chair.
board.
Chairman, I am in favor of opening up and letting it expire. My question, though, is we've gotten a better communication capability as a result of this, where citizens can participate in meetings remotely, and just wondering what your thoughts are about having some hybrid capability to allow citizens to participate remotely in future meetings.
Right. I'll just open to the board. I mean, it's up to the board. I feel that, as board members, we need to attend. But as the public, I think you can, I don't know. It's a double-edged sword sometimes. I know it's very convenient for people that don't want to come out, late at night and different things like that. But but also we're getting very relaxed. I like to get out and see people and communicate back and forth. But that's just me. That's just me. Just how I feel about it. But I mean, for people that that's elderly and don't want to get out and come out, they can still communicate to us through Zoom.
Well, just so the board knows, you can participate via telephone. We need to discuss about maintaining Zoom. You can allow a phone in. That would be something we need to flush out if that's the majority will of the board, and make sure that we're in compliance with FOIA.
Uh-huh.
I think there is a way to do it if that's the desire of the board to move forward. But the board, I just want to, citizens have always had the ability to phone in if they wanted to participate in different things or leave voicemails or written comments.
Right. So I want to hear from other board members.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I am eager to reopen as much as everyone else, but right now we're not always able to get our kids on school buses, and 3 o'clock is a difficult hour for me. That's the reason I'm not there today. So fortunately next month is the end of the school year, but should this persist come August, September, and I'm having to carry children to and from school as I am right now, 3 o'clock becomes pretty inconvenient for me. I'm not suggesting we change the time, but this solution seems to work nicely in that I'm able to participate without being disruptive. But this problem may take care of itself if we are truly open back up and we have full seating on our buses for the public schools. But it's one more consideration. It's not as simple as let's start opening up. Everybody's impacted differently, and that's just one example where it's impacted my family.
Well, Heather, then, I did talk to you earlier, then you said, you know, as board members, is you only can do it certain so many times a year, how did that set up?
Yes, sir. So I checked on that. So the way the Freedom of Information Act, the current law says that members can participate electronically, but only allowed twice a year. And you have to amend the bylaws, and there's a procedure we have to go through. It's pretty straightforward. We just got to do some procedural things. There was an amendment made in the legislation this year, and it'll go into effect on July 1 that has expanded that. And so now FOIA says that for a personal matter, you can participate so long as the majority is there in person in a quorum. A board member can participate electronically for 2 members or up to 25% of their calendar meetings number is greater. So that would allow a few more attendance. Members could attend, 2 members could attend electronically up to whatever that larger number is, depending on how many meetings are scheduled in the calendar year.
Mm-hmm. So we can have that flexibility?
No, you can. So that's what I'm saying. So, well, you have a couple of options. So if you do nothing and the continuity ordinance dissolves, and let's say you want to amend, you could amend your bylaws to allow for the new FOIA legislation that allows a minority group of the members to attend electronically. That's one option. And I can prepare a draft amendment to the bylaws for the next meeting, and y'all can review that. And once you adopt it, then I'll pick on John. John could attend electronically, or Pete, or Lud, or Reggie, or Wayne, you know, but right. Only 2 at a time could do that. 3 would have to be in person. Right. Your other alternatives are to adopt your continuity ordinance, to re-adopt it again. That allows, I mean, you can allow in-person meetings even though you have your continuity ordinance. The state of emergency still continues. The governor still has that in effect. The pandemic's still here. You can adopt it with a limitation that's only good for 3 more months. There are options here. I'll be happy to help guide you on whatever path you decide. Right. If you guys let me know what the majority is, we can kind of figure out a way.
Right. I think we need to figure out a good way, because I understand, you know, John's situation there, and, you know, we got to kind of allow for those kind of things.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Speaking as an elderly person, I would like to help out you younger folk. By saying, yes, us elderly people will come to this meeting so you younger folks can do what you've got to do. And I would like to make a motion that we do the two people can stay on Zoom.
So you'd like to make a motion to amend your bylaws to allow electronic participation for board members pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act?
Exactly. Yes.
Yes, sir.
Well
okay.
said.
All right. We have that motion by John. Do we have a second? I mean, about Pete. We have a motion by Pete. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion by Pete, probably second by Lud. Any more discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'd just like to point out to the county attorney that what Pete just did is actually picking on John. What she did by naming every single supervisor was not. So well done, Pete, and thank you, Heather.
Point of order, he said younger folks, so that includes me and the county attorney as well.
All right, we have motion, probably a second. Roll call.
Mr. Williams?
Yay.
Mr. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Thank you. I just want to make some clarification. So I will work on preparing that and have that to you for your June meeting for review and ultimately adoption. And can you just give clear guidance on the continuity ordinance?
Okay. All right. Well,
sorry, I just want to make sure we're all on the same page and I'm not missing something I need to be working on for you.
Yes. Okay. Next, we had the Ccoc renovation contract with Trinity, board approval.
I think
Matt Walker.
Ms. Lewis was expecting some action on that.
Yeah, do y'all want to let the continuity ordinance just kind of die up?
Or Or
Violent
keep-
death or?
I
y'all
thought that's
wanna-
what we were gonna do.
Okay,
Yeah,
well, that's what she's
understanding.
asking
If we don't-
for.
If we don't make any motion to do anything, it's gonna die on its own, right? Or
Yes, sir.
do you want us to make a motion?
Nope, you don't need to do anything. I apologize. I just wasn't 100% sure, so I just wanted to be clear, but I'm clear now.
Yeah, that's my.
Well,
was my
that's a good
understanding.
example because I can definitely detect the body language in the room was just let it die. And you don't get that on Zoom.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
We're good. Okay, thank you.
All right, Mr.
All right,
Chairman.
next, Matt.
Yes, sir. The CCOC renovations, Mr. Chairman, last month y'all awarded a revised award of the bid. And this month we would need action from the board to authorize either you or myself being able to sign the contract with Trinity and get them started on the work. It's my understanding, and Betty's had more contact with Ben with the Bay Design than I have, but it's my understanding we have pre-construction conferences scheduled and some tentative game plan on how the work will proceed. But the very next step is authorization for the chairman or myself to sign the contract.
All right. Do we have a motion for authorization to sign a contract at Trinity?
The contract has for Mr. Walker to sign.
Yeah. And let Matt can sign it.
So move.
We have a motion by Reggie. Do we have a second?
A second.
We have a motion by Reggie, probably second by Lud. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Motion so carried. Next, item C, Department of Aviation Grant, Betty Muncy, page 118 to 120.
Right. The Department of Aviation has issued a grant to the Board of Supervisors in the amount of $35,990. That's an 80% share of the cost of the airport layout plan. So the county's portion of this would be $8,997.50.
Okay, we need a motion to approve that grant.
Do you need?
So
me-
move.
We have a motion by John. Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion by John, probably second by Reggie. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Mansfield?
Who?
You.
Oh, yes.
Mr. Williams?
Yes.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Yes.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Yes, motion so carried. All right, next, is that it? Okay, next we have the cigarette tax ordinance
No,
and regional. Say what?
we have D, citizen appointment.
I can't hear. What'd you say, Betty?
D is next, the citizen appointment.
Oh, I'm good. Citizen appointment. Oh, yeah, I skipped that one. Sorry about that. Citizen appointment, Betty.
Thank you. There are several upcoming terms that are vacancies and terms on various boards that will be expiring at the end of June that we have not gotten applications in yet for. But the Keep Middlesex Beautiful Committee does have several vacancies on that group, on that committee, and Michelle Meredith has asked to be appointed to that. They do not have term limits. So her application is included.
Well, I'm looking at that. We're gonna need someone from on that Johnson Grass Committee too, and I see a lot of other vacant opens here.
Yes.
Upcoming expiry. So wetland board, you have hadn't received, you got a vacancy on that too.
Right. Susan has been getting some applications in. They just came in after the board packets were due, to be put together. But
With it.
I know one came in yesterday for the planning commission position. So they'll be filling out in May. I mean, well, we'll be receiving them all month. But yes, certainly Mr. Belcher's position that he held on the social services board, that might be one, that's one that needs special attention because Mr. Belcher is no longer eligible to serve on that group.
Is that at large or?
Yes, that is an at-large position.
I guess we got to remind. And we can.
We're not hearing you, Mr. Jesse, if you were talking.
The Johnson grass one, I was just saying that has to be from each district, right? Or do you know? Because I know nobody had really. I know the only one is George Sneed, and that's from Reggie District. I know I got to get one from my upper end of the county.
Tyler Crittenden is asked to be on it from Deltaville.
I think
That's good news.
I
I
think
had
those are
another.
outlawed.
So he's already expressed interest?
Yes, sir. He
Good.
is.
Okay, because I had another person who I approached about this, and they asked if they could apply for the Board of Equalization instead. So
okay,
that's good.
Yeah, I know I had talked to Jason Bray, but I got to get back with him, and I'll make sure we have somebody by next month.
And I don't believe we have an application from Mr. Crittenden.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't see anything.
Would you like to take action on Mrs. Meredith?
Yes. We can take. Michelle Meredith. Whose district is that from? I like for them.
So move.
She's in my district.
Okay.
So she's in my district.
Oh, she is?
No, Deltaville.
All right. So we got a motion by Ludd, Michelle Meredith. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Reggie. And motion by Ludd, probably second. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield? Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye. Motion so carried. All right, I'm finished with you now, Betty. All right.
Yes.
Okay, now let me get to the cigarette tax ordinance. Regional administration, Matt Walker.
Yes, indeed. I'm going to share my screen. Can everyone see the draft agreement? I want to make sure.
Yes.
Hold on one second. I need to move it over for the board. Hold on. There we are. Now the board can see it. Okay, so we're in receipt of a draft of the cigarette tax regional board. We got a draft agreement a couple months ago that said Northern Neck Region Cigarette Tax Board, but they have renamed it to the Chesapeake Bay Region in anticipation of our interest in the group. Betty, can the people at home see the cigarette?
No, I was getting
Chesapeake
ready to
Bay?
say, we cannot. Matt.
Thank you. Hold on. Let me reshare.
We were seeing it.
Yeah, I've got to reshare it. Bear with me. We've got two monitors over here in play, and I need to make sure I select the right one. Okay, how about now?
Yes.
Okay, very good. All right, so this is not an exhaustive list on your screen, but heretofore, we know of Westmoreland County, Lancaster County, I believe Richmond County, the town of Montrose is interested in joining this body. If Middlesex signs on, we would be one of the first Middle Peninsula communities to sign on to the regional board to help implement a cigarette tax. Of course, the board realizes, and I'll say it for the public here this evening, we have not drafted an ordinance or held a public hearing to implement a cigarette tax in Middlesex. That would be forthcoming along with finalizing this agreement. This is just for information purposes for the board about what this agreement pretty much does. The Northern Neck communities modeled this agreement over after their cost share on I think it's a revenue sharing agreement and an administration agreement that they have in effect to receive ambulance billing fees as a region. Currently, Essex County and King and Queen County participate in that regional board, and they've fashioned this board after that same type of an agreement. I'm not going to go through the whole thing because it's in the board packet, but I wanted to highlight the powers of this board. And in conversations with our Commissioner of Revenue, both her and I agree that if the county was to do a cigarette tax, it would be our recommendation that we participate in a regional board such as this one. And this one seems to be the most likely. The powers of this cigarette tax board would be to assess, collect, and disperse a cigarette tax on behalf of the county and on each participating jurisdiction. They would audit the sale and use of cigarettes within each participating jurisdiction, and provide for information for criminal prosecution by affected participating jurisdictions. Provide guidance and oversight to the designated administrative and fiscal agent, and manage general operating funds to ensure proper funding of the Board of Operations on an ongoing basis. In short, this board would function as our collection agency and process the logistics of implementing and collecting a cigarette tax in our jurisdiction based on our ordinance. It's anticipated that most of the participating ordinances will probably go with a draft, a fairly boilerplate cigarette tax ordinance. I wouldn't see a whole lot of disparity between the different ordinances, but that would better enable them to administer that across the region. Heretofore, I'm hearing that the Middle Peninsula counties are interested in participating in this regional board. You will see this agreement one final time after the board has a draft ordinance, which is forthcoming. Hopefully in June or July, y'all can have an ordinance to send a public hearing and maybe implement sometime January 1, as I mentioned last month. It would give the regional board time to solidify and get the logistics in place to go ahead and get the stamps and whatnot to administer the tax. One thing I do want to point out, and I don't want to be too long because it is in your packet, there's an administrative cost to the collecting and the administering of this ordinance. The agreement as it's written allows for 5% to be withheld from tax collections to pay for the collection costs and implementation of the board activities. Currently, that responsibility rests with the Northern Neck Planning District Commission as to provide staff to the regional board. And if in any event the cost exceed the 5% fee, each jurisdiction would be called upon to pay a little increased percentage of the total revenues from those jurisdictions to cover those costs. Now, one of the questions I have, Mr. Chairman, and I haven't had an opportunity to meet with the counties on the Northern Neck to find the answer out, is what happens if it's less? If it's, say, only 3% to administer and collect the tax, does the participating localities get the benefit of that? Yet to be determined. And I think it's a pretty solid agreement. Like I said, it's based on their ambulance collection fees and the regional board that they've formed to do that on their behalf. I still recommend participating in it in June or July, depending on the board's preference. The county attorney and I will review their cigarette tax ordinance and have something for y'all to send to public hearing. These monies would come into the county on a monthly basis, and being that I think many localities in the state of Virginia are going to implement these cigarette taxes, that we'd be in fine and multiple companies implementing that type of tax. It's also a tax that would come in, as I said, on a monthly basis, and that's always a good thing because it smooths out our cash flow a little bit if the board decides to implement such a tax. And I'm here to answer any questions y'all may have on the agreement, but it looks like a pretty solid agreement to me, and I would recommend our participation.
I had one question, Mr. Chair.
Say what?
I had one question.
Yeah.
Do the different participating jurisdictions get to set their own rate, or is it a rate by region?
It's my understanding that each sets their own rate based on their ordinance. I think some counties are thinking 30 cents per pack. I believe the maximum allowed is 40 cents per pack, but I gotta go back and read the legislation. That would be something we could determine locally here in Middlesex.
Do we have a sense, Matt, of what sales are of tobacco products in Middlesex?
Yeah, we did a quick takeoff study based on the York County study that they did based on population. Anne Marie had some figures last month for us. Anne Marie, do you happen to recall what those figures were? Not putting her on the spot.
Sure, I'm pulling it up right now. We estimated, the question was how much we would get, because I thought he said how many cigarettes were sold.
Yeah, quick estimate on
what I'm driving at is what is the revenue potential?
Okay, the estimated revenue, I may have overestimated it $150,000 a year.
Yeah, I'm going to be conservative and say probably 100, 110. But that's
30
pretty
cents
substantial.
a pack?
That mine was at 40 cents a pack.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
80. Oh, annual.
Yeah, that's annually, not monthly.
Right. Yeah, I understand.
We give 5% of whatever we pick up the road.
Yeah, we pay them 5% to implement and collect the tax on our behalf. And it, based on what we collect, yes, based on the number of packs sold in the community.
Yeah.
So if it's the will of the board, what I'd like to do, if this agreement, and again, not rushing y'all, but if the agreement looks pretty good, I would like to go back and tell the Northern Neck communities that we've had a cursory review of the agreement. We're going to propose that along with an ordinance and move towards adopting an ordinance sometime over the summer.
Right.
Just so that we can stay engaged and communicative with the Northern Neck communities that are moving forward.
Okay. I just like good consensus from the board. I mean, we don't need it. It's just consensus. So, then we'll pull for public hearing and everything like that. So I just need a consensus from the board if everybody's okay with it.
Well, I'd like to ask Matt a question.
Yes, sir.
We're going to pay them 5% to collect it.
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to come down to Middlesex County? How are they going to collect it? What are they going to do for the 5%?
That's a very good question. Yes, I think the short answer is yes. They're going to have to come down to Middlesex and probably train the businesses that sell cigarettes, our convenience stores, our shopping centers and whatnot. If there's a stamp, they're going to have to make sure that the wholesalers are putting the stamps on the packs. Pretty much all of the logistics that are involved in collecting a cigarette tax, which I could not tell you right now to save my life, Pete, because I've never collected a cigarette tax. And I know I speak for the Commissioner of Revenue because we spoke about it. She said, oh, please God, we wouldn't know where to even start. If we do this, we need to participate with a regional group that kind of does that on our behalf. So it's probably the best 5% we're likely to spend.
I'll be glad to do it for 4%.
I'll try to negotiate with them, Pete, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be 5.
I was going to say, a key component too for the board to know is when you're collecting, the commissioner and I were talking about, her ladies or her people in the office will be showing up with clipboards to talk to the business owners. The regional authority, the legislation gives them the authority to have a gun on their hip when they go to collect the tax. It's a very, very, they look very authoritative. And anyway, the legislation would allow us to do that with the commissioner's office as well, but I think there's some reluctancy to do that. The regional authorities got their, is trying to come up with a way to do it uniform throughout the different jurisdictions.
Matt, I have another question for Anne Marie based on her York County study. And if you could send that to me, I'd like to review it a little bit on my own, but at 40 cents a unit of tobacco, because it's obviously not just cigarettes, and 100,000 forecasted in our county of 10,000, that means each individual's consuming 25 units of tobacco a year on average. I'm just curious if these taxes actually have a good impact in reducing the amount of tobacco usage, or if people just suck up and pay the money and still continue to use. Is there anything that sort of points, because that's my constituents, especially my smoking friends, when they ask me about this, I'd like to have a better sense of what it actually does for the health of the community beyond giving the county some additional revenue. So maybe the question really is, could I just have that report sent to me?
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's the short answer is yes. And I think the difference between my quick study, which was based on the York model, and Anne Marie's was she more thoughtfully included our summertime populations. I did not. I just used a straight 10 across the board, and I came up with, I think, 60 to 70,000 with mine. But what I would say in answering to that question or responding to the comment is probably a better question put to our Dr. Williams with our health department to see if there's been any study to suggest higher cost tobacco items reduce use. I think that's what I'm hearing you get at there, John.
I think we're in a good situation because, we have all these campgrounds open and they're probably buying a lot of this cigarette products here because it's cheaper.
Mr. Chairman, that's a very good point.
That's what I think. I think,
and
our population doubles. We got 3 or 4 campgrounds and they come in to buy things, we just set at a rate that's just a little bit cheaper than other areas and still get the production of buying.
we get a lot of our campground folks coming to us surprisingly from Southern Maryland as well. And Maryland has a very high cigarette tax. So I would be surprised if we wouldn't find many people coming here enjoying the campgrounds or stocking up on their cigarettes before they go back to Maryland.
That's what they do.
That came up in one of our coordination phone calls with the group that, Middlesex of all counties may be in a pretty good position to levy this tax because we have so many transient folks coming through and then going back home to higher taxed areas.
Matt, that just got me thinking, have we ever done an aggregation of the capacity of each of our campgrounds? Because we all talk about our population doubles, and do we have a good number in terms of just what the campgrounds at capacity add to our population in the summer?
Only what we've heard from the campgrounds and what we've witnessed. I know David Bushy and I have always estimated on key weekends, Memorial Day weekend, July weekend, we can have as many as 25,000 people total in the county, maybe 30. And a good bit of those are in our campgrounds because that's our number one lodging entities in the county. So, but I mean, a lot of it's just anecdotal. We haven't studied it per se.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so I think we have that consensus to go ahead and start with that cigarette tax ordinance.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Next, County Administrator update.
Before I launch in, you've heard me ramble on enough. I'm going to ask Ms. Anne Marie to talk to the board a little bit about what she's found out with Arpa, and particularly a project that's been on the board's plate and docket for a long time, and that is going through our codes and ordinances to make sure they're all up to date. If there are gray hairs on Heather's head, it's because she's had to go through our codes and found all of them out to date and here and there. So Anne Marie, would you like to speak to that, please?
I would. Actually, I have a total of 3 things to go over today on behalf of the administrator's office. First, do you need me on video when I'm talking? I'll go on video just so you can see. Okay. First is about the surplus property auction. I wanted everyone to know that, first of all, last month, the Board of Supervisors declared several items surplus. For the first time, rather than just advertise in the paper and wait for bids, we advertised in the paper and Facebook and then posted the items on an internet auction site called GovDeals. We sold 10 items, everything except for the truck topper, which has been reposted and it's now got a bid on it. The total income was $15,506, which is pretty good. Then I think it appears to be better than most of our auctions. GovDeals works like this. After the government posts the pictures and the descriptions on the website, online bidding can begin. Registered parties, GovDeals has over 50,000 bidders within 50 miles of Saluda. They can bid the minimum amount and then it goes up. They can compete against each other in increments. As a bidder, you can submit questions. You can request to see the item in person. You can see the photos. I put at least 8 photos of each item out there. You can see what the most recent bid is to enable you to make a responsible bid. Anyway, at the close of the auction, the bidder was notified. We were notified. I met on site of the merchandise to swap paperwork. So anyway, it's new, and I just wanted to let you know that I think it worked really well. And if you've got any questions, let me know. And more importantly, I want to make sure that you're all satisfied with our transparency. The only thing I wished I'd done differently is I wished I'd put this information in a written report to the board. I thought of that this morning. I probably should have just put this in writing instead of a verbal report. But anyway, total of income was $15,506 from the govdeals.com auction. Any questions on that one?
Any questions? Well, thank you, Anne Marie.
Okay. The second item is about the codification of the ordinance. Apparently you did know this, that the Middlesex County ordinances have never been codified. Currently, the county codes appear to be listed on our website in a list sorted mostly alphabetical till you get to the bottom. For general purposes, just so everybody knows, codification is the process of arranging laws or rules into a systematic code or plan. The process does not create new laws, it simply arranges existing laws by subject into one single code. But when we do that, the codification process, when you hire somebody out to do this, it helps identify inconsistent laws, duplicate laws, ambiguous laws, laws that are inconsistent with the state's requirements. Codification kind of develops into this uniform source for everybody to access, so professionals can access what our laws are, as well as the lay people here in the just the general public. Gives the public access to the current law, and as the county administrator just said, it makes it easier for people like Attorney Lewis to access our own laws and helps find things. It helps with enforcement, organization, and it acts as a roadmap for our legislative body. And it provides a consistent terminology as a legal point of reference, because from now on, once we have this code of ordinances, each new ordinance will fit in with the same type of terminology. For example, it'll be, whereas this, we are changing section this, and this, and everything will be relatively consistent. So I went out and I reached out to 4 different codifying agencies, if you will. One of them doesn't do it anymore, but the other 3 came back with, very responsive quotes. All of them were, I think the ranges were about 13,450, which was low, to just over 18,000, which was high. 13,450 was by Municode. And so I was going to select Municode. So I checked with our surrounding agencies, and I'll just kind of list: King William County, Prince William, King and George, Essex County, Surrey County, Lancaster County, Newport News, Gloucester County, Hanover County, Charles City, Louisa County. Those all use Municode. Richmond County uses American Legal. Matthews County uses General Code. And anyway, point is that Municode is pretty popular in the area. We can use, because we are doing this specifically to make the laws of the government accessible to the public, we're going to be able to use the original CARES Act money. So with that, we're ready to kick this off. I'm meeting with them. Heather and I will be meeting with them tomorrow afternoon to get this process kicked off, as long as everyone's still happy with that idea. We think it's great. We think it'll be great for our community. Now I'll move on.
All right. Well, thank you, Anne Marie, for that.
Okay.
And I want to reiterate, I think that's a great job. And this recodification, since we're posting on the internet, making things a lot easier and simpler for the public to obtain remotely. It's my understanding that it's eligible for Arpa funding. So it's not going to cost the county. It's something we can do to help our citizens be able to engage their government from home in a safe and practical manner.
He said Arpa. We're using CARES. CARES was last year.
CARES.
CARES. You said Arpa because that's my next topic.
That's right. Okay.
So I'll jump, and from that I'll segue right into the last item of my day. for you all is to give an update on the ARPA funds. As you recall, last meeting, I briefed you on what the money could be spent on. I gave you the formal list of 4 things. And remember, after your perusal of that, we agreed that some of it could be used to fund items in the budget. So it was subsequently appropriated in the budget, and I'm not going to rehash that part of the discussion by any means. The county's estimated portion is $2.07 million. Half of it's going to be received this year, half next year. About $356,000 was appropriated as part of this budget, leaving $679,000 available now and $1.035 million available next year. $2 million is a lot of money by anyone's standards. It can certainly make an impact on any project. Our responsibility as a government for coming up is going to be sure that we do the best and highest use of these funds. As we discussed last month, what most governments are doing right now is waiting for federal guidance, which still hasn't been produced. Current indications, I think I heard this from VACO, I think it was VACO. Current indications are that federal guidance should be provided by May 10th. And the first distribution is going to be by May 11th. That's so they say. I think we all acknowledge that it's important to wait for the federal guidance before forging ahead. There appears to be a general consensus among most government entities about the importance of gathering a team of internal and external stakeholders, because it's important to understand the community's needs at all levels, whether it's individual, families, government, organizations, businesses. Now, obviously, it's great to get citizens involved because it is their tax money that we're getting. And since we have until December 2024 to spend the funds, we, the government, want to have a careful, well-defined, well-thought-out plan. By the same token, I don't want to make a career out of developing that plan either. So there's going to be many ways we can, as a group, solicit community input. They do, bear with me, they do things like charrettes, town hall meetings, online surveys, and open submissions. All of those are great opportunities, and please don't make me do charrettes. Do y'all remember if you've done those? Those are horrible. And you guys are going to say that's a good idea. No. I want to reiterate to you, though, at this point, we don't want to make any commitments to the public about how to spend this money until, first of all, we have a defined plan, until we've gotten the right input. So if somebody comes to you and says what you plan to do, let's not make any outside commitments till we know. I've already received one request for funding, and we're just putting all these aside for now while we determine, number one, what the federal government wants. And then I'd like to work with you as a board to make sure that we're following what your guidelines are to get the public's input. So anyway, as I receive and understand the federal guidance, it may be easier to make a recommendation about how to do that. My plan then is to bring back some ideas at the next board meeting, either from what other governments are doing as best practices, or maybe there'll be something in the federal guidelines, although unexpected. Until then, you can count on me, you can call on me to discuss your ideas if you have any. But anyway, I just wanted to let you know that we don't have any federal guidance yet, and I plan to continue to look for it. And as soon as we get some, take some better action on developing a better way to spend the funds. Questions, concerns?
Any questions, concerns? If not, thank you for all that information.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, and I'll try to be brief on my remarks too. As alluded to earlier, perhaps the most important, and this kind of surfaced as the most important, 3:03 this afternoon, Michelle received from the Department of Housing and Community Development a letter that concerns our community development block grant at the Cook's Corner complex, specifically the RCE side of the Cook's Corner project. And this is what Gordon was alluding to in his remarks earlier. Mr. Chairman, I don't want to blindside the board with this because we literally received it at 3:03 this afternoon. But the time frame is such that we're being given basically till June 1 to discuss this and let them know how we want to proceed. And we don't meet again until June 1. So with your concurrence, I would like to read the aspects of this letter that I think are important for the board to know. Okay. All right. Goes into an introduction to COVID has taken a huge toll on us all as communities and individuals. Alike, the Cook's Corner project has also suffered. The circumstances that existed when the county and its partners submitted the funding request have changed. The CDBG portion of this project was to create 20 jobs, 11 of which would be held by, and I'm paraphrasing some of this, will be held or made available to individuals of low to moderate income. The CDBG offer was for $1.25 million. Since the initial offer was made, the restaurant developers, the job creators, have withdrawn from the project due, at least in part or in whole, to COVID. Also, although there may be some limited flexibility, any subsequent developer generally will be bound by the expectations that were put in place for the original developer. These were some of the circumstances that Gordon alluded to in his comments earlier at the podium this afternoon. I'm going to paraphrase that by saying any developer we're likely to find is going to have to fit very neatly in that little peg that we had developed around the original developer in order to comply with the grant requirements. DHCD has extended the pre-contract period more than a year to allow the county to complete the original documents and then identify a replacement developer. I'm not going to read the whole thing to you, but I'll get to the point. DHCD is able to offer the county until Tuesday, June 1st, 2021 to meet all pre-contract requirements, including having a committed developer. If the county is not able to identify a committed developer by June 1, 2021, DHCD will withdraw the offer of the grant. We also want to reiterate that should the county relinquish the offer prior to June 1 or DHCD withdraw its offer, we have a no harm, no foul circumstance. DHCD will be open to receiving subsequent grant requests from the county and will continue to value this relationship with Middlesex County. In my discussion with DHCD personnel offline, it's my understanding other communities may have needs for this money. And the longer they keep it allocated to us, when it's not very likely we're going to have a replacement, it's probably taking funds away from those other communities. And Mr. Chairman, I know I'm kind of springing this on you tonight, but again, it was given to us at 3:03. I think my recommendation would be for the board to go ahead and authorize staff to say, DHCD, thank you, but we're going to relinquish the grant back, and we'll reapply when we have another eligible party located. I think that's where I would recommend the board go, because that shows on our part that we recognize we don't have somebody ready to step in, probably not likely to do so by June 1st. Go ahead and we'll pass on this one and we'll reapply when we have something eligible.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing you can do, really, when you think about it.
And I do apologize again for the abrupt nature of this. And I think Michelle is copying the board with the letter that we received from DHCD.
Okay.
I'll pass that around.
All right.
Any questions or concerns or consensus the board may have on that subject? And then I'll move on with the remainder of my update.
Well, you just need a consensus to write that letter, right? Okay. Yeah.
You don't want to vote on that?
It's y'all's pleasure.
Do you want to vote? I mean, it's up to you. I don't care.
Doesn't make any difference to me, but I think we should.
All right. You want to make that motion then?
Wait a second. Why are we rushing to
Hold
do this? We just got the letter today. Why are we rushing? We it's just getting out there. We don't know nobody else is going to step in. We haven't tried nobody else. I mean, it's
Well,
nobody.
we've
you have in
actually
mind.
been trying to find another replacement for quite some time now. You can wait until June 1st.
No, we don't have to wait that long, but I think we should wait some. I don't think it should be just bang, we got the letter at 3 o'clock today and just respond right away. So we don't want it. And
It's the will and pleasure of the board. I just, again, I would recommend if we don't have somebody lined up, and I don't think we do just yet, that would qualify for the grant, we go ahead and tell DHCD we'll reapply when we do. But it's the board's pleasure. If y'all want to wait till
to understand.
Well, I guess you can. I mean, you can still have a letter prepared.
Yeah, you can
and
prepare.
wait, then send it. I think. I mean,
Because you said that we don't have any any offers at all, and we didn't even know until today at 3 o'clock.
Right.
I mean, they've just backed out today, right? I understand that. It just got backed out today. They sent it in today. Well, maybe somebody might see the letter and might want an opportunity to do it. I mean, we got to do our part of work to see what's going to go on. Find out how this thing works. I'm just for waiting just a little bit of 7 days, a week or something, not just bang right away, you know.
Okay, that's
That
fine.
makes sense to me. We have a couple, 2, 3 weeks now.
We'll give it a couple weeks, and if the consensus of the board then is that if it's
Right,
okay for me to write them and let them know, we'll reapply later.
Yes.
We'll wait 3 weeks, and then
All right.
we'll send a letter,
Okay.
if that's okay with the
Is there a
board.
consensus with the board?
3 weeks is gonna be June 1st anyway.
Right.
Pretty close, yes, sir.
I go for 2 weeks, but that's.
I'm sorry, if I can remind everyone to please use your microphones. We really can't hear you.
Pete, she said he really can't hear you.
Oh. I personally think 3 weeks is, you might as well wait for June 1. So personally, I'm in favor of as soon as possible, but if we're going that, 2 weeks, I think.
I'm fine with anything.
Right.
Y'all just let me know what you want.
Look, anything?
Fine with anything.
Anything? All right, let's go, let's go 2 weeks, and then.
Yes, sir.
Have a letter prepared, put it.
Absolutely. And again, I'm passing the letter around so y'all can read it.
Right,
And
right.
Michelle will forward that letter to the board.
Okay.
So I think I've got my marching orders on that. Thank you,
Right,
Mr.
right.
Chairman. The only other couple of items I have is, of course, if you've ridden through Saluda, you have seen HRSD and the work they're commencing upon the Cook's Corner force main back into Saluda. I've had a couple of citizens ask me, what, are y'all running the water line into Saluda? No, Saluda is served by Aqua. Their water lines are already here. That is actually part of the Cook's Corner sewer project that HRSD is working on to bring a force main back to the Saluda treatment plant temporarily until they can go back out of town with a transmission main, which it's my understanding they're getting started on pretty soon as well. Another front for the HRSD, Hampton Road Sanitation District's beginning design work on the Hartfield and Saluda sewer systems. The sewer system here in Saluda is going to be a fairly small phase deployment right around the courthouse area. Of course, going back to the existing treatment plant behind the regional jail. And the Hartfield sewage treatment system would largely be one line along the main route 33 through Hartfield. Designs beginning on that. We've had some coordination issues between our water authority engineer and the HRSD's engineer getting different documents back and forth that may help with the engineering on it, but hopefully cleared some of that up today, as a matter of fact. HRSD's engineer, of course, wants to try to utilize as much of the existing engineering that has been done in the community to get a good sense of how they're going to deploy not only the transmission main going through the community to Yorktown, but also the collection systems that are been authorized to move forward. Also, last but not least, we took some action on the topping sewer system to move that forward. That, of course, is currently planned for county operation of the collection system of that sewer system. Our engineers with Timmons are going to be working on in earnest the preliminary engineering report for Deltaville. Alluded to this earlier, I think the board knows, and really we only have a few people from the public joining us tonight, but one of the critical decision points right now that the county's waiting on is for Hampton Road Sanitation District to consider and decide whether they're going to maintain and operate what amounts to a grinder system, with homeowners and property owners maintaining their own grinder pumps, and then HRSD potentially operating the receiving collection system from those pumps. I remain optimistic that that is going to occur, that the district is going to decide, yes, they can operate those types of systems and work with property owners owning their own grinder pumps. it would be Christmas for us if they decided to do that, us meaning the staff, because then we won't have to get into the sewer business with at least 1 foot. It'd probably be in the best long-term interest of the county to have a knowledgeable entity like HRSD operate and maintain the sewer systems within the county. But that decision is still resting with the board. Last but not least, I want to add one thing with sewer. One of the things that I've noticed, and I've tried to get out quite a little bit, and tour not just the water authority's job site, but the HRSD job sites. Really, and I don't have a lot of public here, but I'm probably going to work with Larry to try to get something in the paper to really encourage our public and passers through to slow down in these construction zones. I've witnessed a couple of close calls where, they're working right up to the cones and traffic's whizzing by 45 miles an hour. You really got to give these construction workers a break. And as they say at VDOT, it's a dangerous thing working alongside of the road, and even more dangerous when people are going a little too fast through these zones. I'm probably going to work with Larry to try to get something in the paper to encourage people just to slow down. You're going to get there. And Mr. Chairman, I've got a couple other things that could probably wait. If y'all have any questions.
Board member got any questions for Matt? All
Okay.
right, man.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Attorney update. Heather.
Yes, sir. So I have another item for you in your packets. You'll see, as you recall at prior meeting, the board authorized to sell a small tract of land down at Hummel Airfield to Delaware Corp. And at the buyer's request, the turnaround dates were pretty tight. And unfortunately, we're just not going to make them. There's no hiccups. We're just takes a little bit of time to get all your documents in order and various things that are needed for the closing. So I drafted a first amendment to that contract that simply says the closing date, instead of being in April, will now be June 3rd. And to my knowledge, the buyer doesn't have any issue with it. I've spoke with his attorney, Mr. Ward, and it appeared to be all in agreement. I haven't been told otherwise. So I'm asking the board to review that. And if it's the board's pleasure, to please authorize the chairman to sign it. Again, it's simply an amendment allowing the contract, instead of closing at the end of April, it will close, at the end of April, it'll close June 3rd.
Okay. You need a motion on that?
Yes, sir, I do. I just need a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the first amendment to the sales contract for the unimproved land to Delaware Corp.
So moved.
We have a motion by John. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Love. We have a motion by John, probably second by Love. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Williams,
Yes.
Mr. Coontz,
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield, Mr. Mansfield,
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough,
Aye.
Mr. Jesse.
Aye. Motion so carried.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I will have that for your signature, and then we'll forward that over to the buyer for their signature, and we should have that resolved in the next few weeks. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay. Line item 8, unfinished business. Do anybody have any unfinished business? All right, I'm gonna go
Chairman,
on to.
I actually have two brief items. One is, as we discussed earlier last week, I'm still getting calls from residents about the landing at Mill Creek, and staff and I are working to get that opened up again this year in terms of moving sand out of the boat ramp. But I just wanted to keep that very much on our minds. That is something we are working on, and time is of the essence, given that boating season is upon us, both for the professionals and the recreational. And then the other item is, if you recall, some months ago, the Drake Energy Storage Project was brought to the Planning Commission and then to us. Dominion has in fact issued their RFP this week. Maybe it was last week, but in the last couple of days, and it's for 100 megawatts of energy storage. And with the recent legislation in the General Assembly, that kind of project could significantly impact county coffers like ours or other counties that might have such projects being considered. There is some urgency in that we take a look at their application, and Dave Kretz's office is doing that now. But I want to make sure all the supervisors are aware that when that project gets to us, there will be some urgency on us making a decision. And I'm sure all of us will be pretty pleased at the financials that come with that project in terms of the benefit to the county. And also want to mention that the storage developer has been responsive. One of the first things I suggested to them was that if it was further off of the Pooler Highway, it would be less of an eyesore, and it would allow better use, better development at the Harmony Grove corner of Gray's Point and the Pooler Highway. So just a heads up that there's potentially the planning and zoning people coming to us to look at that project again. And it really could have some great value to the community in terms of not just increased reliability and of our grid, of our local network, electrical network, but also direct benefit to the county coffers. And that's all.
Hey, John, you say Dominion's going to take it over?
Dominion's issued the RFP, so they're asking for proposals for projects for both renewable. I think they want 1,000 megawatts of renewable energy projects this year in this round, and 100 megawatts of energy storage. And it's my understanding that Dominion very much likes this location for their own reasons. That substation seems to line up nicely with storage. But yeah, eventually it would be Dominion owned.
Yeah, well, then there's some taxes that we won't get then if they take it over, right? Don't they get a break? I'm just asking the question because I don't know.
Yeah, I guess I'd rather leave it to the developer to answer your questions and present on that.
Okay, all right.
But the bigger story, Wayne, is because of new legislation in the General Assembly this year, it really allows us to see revenue from that kind of project. And over 20 years, I forget exactly what the number is, but when that presentation comes, I'm sure they're going to brag about how much money they're able to, the benefit to the county is significant.
Okay, well, thank you.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
somewhat of a follow-up on what John is talking about. I talked to Bob Burnley concerning the battery storage facility that I think we have talked about time and time again. And they are going to submit a proposal probably for our next month's meeting. John, does this impact anything that you were talking about?
I'm not sure who Bob Burnley is. If I should, I apologize, but I can't imagine there's two such energy storage projects in the queue for this RFP in Middlesex County. So we're probably talking about the same thing.
Oh, I'm talking about the battery storage.
Yeah, when I say energy storage, that's what I mean, batteries.
Okay,
Yeah.
That's where I thought, but I wasn't sure. Thank you.
All right. Okay, anybody have any new business?
Yeah. Mr. Chair, I do have I think what it may be doing new business. First of all, I did intend to talk to Ted Hennepin about the bulk collection rate, but I also wanted to talk to him about hurrying up and the line from the Urbana plant back into their line. I don't know whether everybody understands, but they are dumping sewage in Urbana Creek, our creek, at over double what the BOD and nitrogen levels should be. And there seems to be no rush whatsoever to get that cleaned up. And again, I would like to talk to Ted Hennepin about trying to get it as soon as possible. I doubt very seriously that it'll make a hell of an impact, but I think we as Middlesex County should not be sitting around saying, oh, sure, another 2 or 3 years, what the hell? Do I have a consensus that it's okay for me to talk to Ted about it? I can talk to him about it personally, or I can say that I think the board is not satisfied with the dumping of sewage out of control.
But they just continue to doing it, paying credits, right? To do it, be able to do it.
Oh, they, yeah.
That's what they're doing. They're paying,
The fact that you buy
right.
damn credits from somebody up in Africa,
Yeah,
you know,
it's crazy. I know. I understand.
it has nothing to do with what you're dumping in our creek.
Right. So, what's the consensus of the board? Do y'all want to do this a letter from the board, or do Pete want to take care of what you want to do?
Yeah, Pete, you have my support to talk with Ted, try and get him to hurry up.
All right. Rich?
Yeah, my support. Go ahead and talk.
All right, you got my support. John?
Good by me.
Good.
Yeah. By the way, someone just said possibly a letter from the board might be more appropriate than Pete Mansfield calling.
I would recommend you speak to him, Pete. I think I've conveyed the desire and wishes up the food chain, but I think you talking to him parallel to your conversation would be just as effective, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with you. A personal talk to.
Oh, well, by the way, thanks, board.
Okay.
Well, also,
And just to chime in and maybe help Pete feel a little better, we have been reviewing the plans for that line. That is indeed part of the transmission main. I've seen the preliminary plans and they look pretty good.
okay, thank you.
You got anything else, Pete? I see you looking down. You good?
I think I'm in good shape.
All right, for next we have matters presented to the board.
Mr. Chair, I had one item. Betty reminded me, the Keep Middlesex Beautiful campaign around Earth Day, I guess it was April 24th. Volunteers across the county picked up over 300 bags, and a number of them actually signed up to join Keep Middlesex Beautiful. And I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, I didn't speed up to find out the phone number of Ambrose Disposal Services, but on the way to pick up the kids today, I watched trash flying out of Ambrose Disposal Services truck up and down the Polar Highway. I've called them in the past and they say, we'll take care of it. But, one citizen having caught that multiple times at this point, it's really hard to generate committee member volunteerism to go pick up trash. And it's really disheartening to see one member of the private sector just not care at all. So I will be calling Ambrose later.
Right.
And that may be one driver having a bad day, but something is systemically broken within that group, because that's twice that I've seen it. And when you're out there picking up the roads, after a while, you get mad as hell and you're going to do something about it, because that's ridiculous. But the real point there was the volunteers did a great job on April 24th. And we've heard a lot of good feedback from the citizenry. I mean, it's nice to see a clean county.
I just wanted to clarify that the 300 bags was not all volunteer. We did have some contract. Most of that was from a contractor, but over about 75 bags was by volunteers.
Thanks, Betty. And
It's a great day.
Just to remind the board, we had authorized money for trash pickup by a contractor. And what we found in those 225 bags that they picked up, or whatever the number was, is it's actually slightly more cost effective to use this contractor at this rate. So, that's in my mind, good use of tax funding, because we've got a lot of people coming into the community. As we know, we swell at, 25, 30,000. And part of what they like about coming out here is we clean up after ourselves. So it's just, in general, it was a nice day, and it's good to see the county cleaned up.
All right, thank you, John.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Can I ask John a question?
Yeah.
John, do you think it would be helpful for Ambrose to get a letter from the county saying that we have on numerous occasions now seen their trucks not following the instructions of obviously not allowing waste to come from it, and if it continues in the future, we will have to take some kind of more punitive action?
Pete, I'll give you my opinion. I do think it would be appropriate, because it's not a one-off at this point. Unfortunately, it's only me that's seeing it. And, they were somewhat responsive when I called them a year or two ago when I last saw it happen. I'd almost defer to the administration and the county attorney to sort of look into the appropriateness of a letter, what the letter might say, what recourse we have. But, I just thought it was worth bringing up to the board to make you aware that, a lot of times when you're cleaning up the trash, you sort of say, well, who are these people throwing this stuff out? And, when you actually see somebody that's in the industry of trash hauling and it's just flying off the back of the truck, it's just really maddening. So I'd be supportive of a letter, but I would defer to the administration and the attorney to look into exactly what we would say there.
I think what I would recommend, Mr. Chairman, is and I was just going to pretty much say exactly what John said. The county staff, to my knowledge, has not witnessed this. When we do, we try to let people know too, but maybe a more generic letter to all of our trash haulers, reminding them to make sure that things are covered up, make sure things aren't blowing off, and that we've had the matter come up to board meetings and it's been represented that there's apparently some issues there, and that we're going to also alert the sheriff to try to actively police that to the extent they can. Something more generic to all of the trash haulers, not singling anyone out.
I like that idea. I think it accomplishes more. And it just, I would like to know if there is some ramification, whether it's a citizen that takes video of it, because that was, had I not been driving, I would have just flipped out my phone and taken a video of it, and there you go.
But I think, man, it's a letter to all citizens, because I'm gonna tell you, homeowners little just as bad as the trash haulers, because they're hauling stuff on the back of their trucks. You see it blowing off, and I think it's more so saying, hey, everybody, something in the Sentinel, everybody, make sure you cover and help clean up. I appreciate everything, with the people and John cleaning up the community, but it's everybody, because you can see anybody. Sometimes they haul their trash, the tops blow off. You see the tops in the road, trash blowing off, and even on 17, I live on 17. Trash trucks go up and down, and I think a couple of weeks ago, hey, they piled up a bunch of trash they were picking up. I thought they were going to cut, but a couple of weeks ago on 17, and it's continuous. They clean up one week, it's trashed up again.
Yeah, more general notice to everyone. We'll try to develop a more general type of PR campaign, and if we can utilize Lud's great redrafting skills on our message, similar to what we did with the Wear a Mask campaign.
Right. I think that'll be good.
Be happy to do that.
Everybody's involved.
Be happy to do that.
We'd love it if you covered it, something like that.
All right. Okay. Now let's move on. Okay, we got matters presented to the board. I'm gonna start all the way over to my left with Lud.
We need him to turn his mic on, please.
Mike got to be on. Mike got to be on.
Thank you. Yeah, I do have a matter to present to the board. This is something that was initiated by the Virginia Oyster Shell Recycling Program. A gentleman, Todd Janeski, is the director of that, and he reached out to contact us. And what they're doing is they're forming partnerships in various counties to collect oyster shells in order to recycle them back into the industry. So a little bit more information is the following. They already have partners in Charlottesville, Fairfax County, City of Richmond, and Lancaster County. And all of them, Todd assures us, if you call them and say, what, if you collect oysters, are they going to smell? And he assures us that the answer is no. And all of those counties and collection sites would be glad for us to even come visit and give it the smell test. There isn't a smell because the shells are nearly empty of any organic matter to decompose. And typically when they're discarded, he explained that they will completely decay in just a day or so. And so it's not a source of bad odor. This program established a partnership with J&W Seafood some time ago and still has a relationship with Island Seafood over in Gwynns Island to set shell with larval oysters on the shells and then return them to the Pianka tank. They have already returned over 40 million oysters to the Pianka tank as part of this 438-acre oyster seeding project that's underway. I reached out to Betty Muncie and asked about our waste site ability to accommodate a receptacle in Deltaville, which is where they requested it. She said she didn't have a problem with it. She touched base with BPPSA to make sure there's room for it, and they were willing to provide a preferred area for collection. The oyster recycling program will provide the collection receptacle. They'll take care of the cost of moving it. And so all we basically are doing is giving them permission to use our trash collection site for this oyster shell recycling program. We would also like to encourage citizens, rather than throwing their shells away, to collect their own shells and bring them to this recycling site, as well as all the restaurants. And I know at least one restaurant in Deltaville is already committed to recycling all of their oyster shells to the Deltaville collection site. So would like to proceed with this. I don't know that this is a board vote matter. If it is, we can do that. Everybody who needs to authorize it along the, from a site location and permission is on board with it.
Yeah, I think it's an excellent idea. I got a question though. Are those containers are small, I'm gonna say small holes that you put oysters in? Because you know, out in rural areas, if somebody see a dumpster, trash get in them. That's I'm only concerned. You either have to lock them down or either have a small portal that you put small stuff in. Because we're not like cities, you know, you don't, they have trash pickup. We go to a transfer station. And a lot of times somebody see a dumpster, if nobody looking, I'm just serious. I'm just telling you, I'm just being realistic. Nobody looking, you get everything in there. So you're gonna have to either have it locked up or a small portal that you can just put small stuff in it. I don't know how they set up. I'm just curious.
I agree with you. People will put anything in a dumpster that's just randomly located, but I think that's why they asked to site it at our manned facility. So it would actually be at the Deltaville collection site where the technician who's on duty says, you know, your shells go there, your cardboard there, your plastic over there.
Right, I didn't realize you had it at one of the transfer stations. Okay, it's gonna be located at the transfer station.
Right.
Oh, okay, I'm good. All right.
How many transfer stations you talking about?
Just one. Just
in
Deltaville.
Why not in the stormwater also?
Because they didn't feel that there was sufficient demand in those other sites.
You gotta eat more oysters, Pete.
Right. So I guess You would like to have a motion on that, or you just consensus? What y'all want to do?
Well, let's go ahead and I'll make a motion that we partner with the Virginia Oyster Shell Recycling Program and allow them to locate their recycling bin at our convenience center in Deltaville.
All right.
Second.
A motion by Lud, probably second by John. Any more discussion? Roll call.
Just real quick, Mr. Chair, I'm curious, you know, we probably go through a fair amount of oysters in November in Urbana. I wonder if we should be talking with Todd Janeski about something to go with our Oyster Festival and sort of raise awareness. And anyway, I just a thought, but.
Right. Well, that's something that can run by the Oyster Foundation, maybe, doing the Oyster Festival. It'd be a good idea. I don't know if we have anything set up or not, but I can check into it.
What about Lud? He's been communicating with them.
Right. That's fine.
Yeah, I'll follow up with him.
Okay. All right. We had a motion, been probably second. And any more discussions? If not, roll call.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Jesse?
Aye, motion so carried. All right, Pete, you have anything? Nope, okay. Reggie? John? Good? And I'm good. I know we've been busy doing certain things, but I'm good too. All right. Next, we have public comment. I will open the hearing for comments from the public. For those with audio connection, you can use *9, which will notify the moderator that you wish to comment. Use *6 to unmute your phone. Those with video capabilities should use the raise hand feature to be recognized by the chair. Each person will be given 3 minutes to speak, and each speaker must identify themselves when speaking. The public hand is now open for comments. Kevin, do we have anybody that will wish to speak?
No, sir.
All right, I'd like to close public comment. And before we adjourn, upcoming meeting will be Tuesday, June the 1st at 3 p.m. at the regular board meeting. All right, at this time, do we have anyone to adjourn? Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We have a motion by John. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Lud. Motion by John, probably second by Lud. Any more discussion? If not, roll call.
Mr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Mansfield?
Aye.
Mr. Coons?
Aye.
Mr. Kimbrough?